Hey you guys, how are you doing? So I'm a ninja now, with a J. Anyway, okay, so I was on. Where do I look? Do I look at the camera or do I look at the screen? It's weird looking at the camera, but it's more natural looking here. Anyway, so let's go to what I'm trying. So I was on Twitter and I saw this amazing demo by the Unity Shader Bible, and they are demoing this thing here. It's a water shader, and what they do is start with this. I'm going to show you the full breakdown because I recreated this in Blender. At least try to. So they start with a caustic texture like this, and then add polar coordinates, which we don't have in Blender, unfortunately. But I'm going to show you how to do that. Actually, I'm not really going to show you. I'm just going to share a project that I created that has polar coordinates. But if you want to see the math behind creating polar coordinates, I'm also going to add this. I have made a post about the entire process just to break down the thing to you, but I just wanted to show you how this is the video, and this is on my website, Blender Everything, and this is the polar coordinates. It just shows you how the polar coordinates would look, and I applied the UV grid texture onto the UV image grid texture onto it. These are the polar coordinates, and this is the blend file. You can download it for free, and I have a video of the full finished project of this here. You can download directly here. Yeah, but basically this is a breakdown of how I did that. So they start with the caustic texture and then add polar coordinates, which again I'll show you how to do that, and then yeah, basically then add other stuff on top of that. So let's go into the blend file and just show you how that looks. Okay, let's go to the video. Okay, so this is the project here. You can see how that looks, and this is the entire setup. Again, the project file are going to be available on my Blender Everything website. You can see the full breakdown, the demo video they have there, and the polar coordinates, and the finished thing. So let me see, yeah, the polar coordinates are this here, and I have also compressed this into a group node so that you can see this is the polar coordinates, and if you look at this, this is how that looks. But I've also added it into a node group that you can reuse, and you can change the scale of the nodes, you can change the radius scale, you can change the inner scale, and rotate this as well. And basically what I did, if you get the polar coordinates, again, if you want to see how the polar coordinates are done, just go to this video. Again, I've left a link in the post here to take you to this video. He explains very well how to make the polar coordinates, and that's what I looked at to actually make the polar coordinates myself. So you just switch out this image with the texture image you have. Let me actually get that with the you just drag in the caustic image, which looks like that, and then replace give it the polar coordinates, and you can see it gives us that look like that. And you can scale these. Basically, you have two different types of scale. There is this inner scale, I want to call it inner scale, and there is this outer scale. You just scale it to a point where it looks good, and then you have the rotation effect, and with that you can also even create some noise texture, which generally looks like that. If we add some color ramp just to give the noise some contrast, and bring in the polar coordinates again. Just scale this down. Can play with the radio. I would recommend you create another, duplicate the polar coordinates, and just so you don't change whatever you had set up here. So you have these two, yeah, something like that, and then you can blend it with this. I think we might want to change let's call of these like that, just, and then you can add a color ramp, add colorize, give this any color you want. Yeah, so the hardest part was just the polar coordinates, and then to give this, you can give the polar coordinates the rotation here, a driver. So frame, you can type in hashtag hash frame divide by say 50, maybe divide by 2, so you get that rotation. You can also give this this a frame divide by maybe 3, so it makes, let's make this divide by 1.2. No, it's just, so the water, and now to make this even more kind of distorted, if you look at the reference image, the reference we were looking at, you can see there is some distortion or some wave in the caustics. So to do that, you just find the, so where is this here, in between the polar coordinates and the image, you just add a vector math node. I just leave it to add, and then grab a noise texture, noise texture, connect this to that. That should create some distortion, but that distortion is too much, so you can duplicate this vector node and change this to scale, so you can scale down the effect of the noise. Now you can see there is that wavy motion, and I think we can also do this. Let me just duplicate this setup for the noise. So we just have to put this between the polar coordinates of the noise and the noise itself. So we just have to add the polar coordinates to the noise, and we should have basically the noise distorted a bit, some distortion in noise. We increase, yeah, something like that, and maybe the rotation can be ×2. Now just need to properly give this a color, and then the rest is just layering different effects. So if I isolate this for a second, I can see I also have this is a mess of a noodle, but it's basically layering these different noises on top of each other. So I have this, I have that noise, I also have which noise? This noise here. It's just a large. The rest you can just go through the project file. I don't want to make this a lengthy project, because this is more like an intermediate project, especially if we're adding in polar coordinates. To get this inside thing, that middle piece there, or white water there, what I did was just, let me go back to this here. I just use a gradient texture, but change this to spherical, and I made sure that I use object coordinates. So just use the coordinate, just use the coordinates, texture coordinates. Make sure you're using the object coordinates that will center the gradient. But we need it to be distorted, so I'm going to add a noise. Basically the same setup we have here, we have already made. Let me just copy this, copy, and actually you can just group it so that you can easily reuse it. And you can expose the scales, some of these outputs if you want, roughness. And you can see how that distorts that area like that. And you will also have it as part, just blended with that. Can just add it with the add blending mode like that. And let's see what else could be difficult here. These particles are just, it's just a simple particle system. So like this, if you go to the particle system, one thing that notably changed was the physics system from noise to voids. That means that it won't be affected by any gravity. So the particles just randomly move around, and also change the lifetime to about 10 frames. So the lifetime is very short, and just so they look like bubbles popping. And the bubble itself is just a simple mesh like this, basically. And the setup for that is just a Fresnel with a color ramp, and then an emission, and then a transparency, so that the middle part is always transparent from any direction you look at it. And, yeah, from close up, it doesn't look like a perfect circle, but from a good distance, it's okay. And I also added these particles as particles, but this time this particle system uses the Newtonian physics system to have the particles be affected with gravity. Then this here, basically the same setup, except without polar coordinates. I didn't use polar coordinates. It's just a tube like this with a displacement modifier, and the displacement modifier uses an empty object as for its coordinates, this empty object. And when you rotate it, it kind of moves around, giving it that wiggly effect. I would call that and that gives it the effect of water running. And then this here, the water wave that you see there. Let me actually just duplicate this and just show you a quick breakdown of the material. That's basically a wave texture in the Y direction, I want to say, or is it in the Z? Yeah, Z direction. Play with the scale and add some noise texture. To distort it, but remember this. Yeah, this also have its own distortion, but the noise adds some extra detail to it. And now to move this going down, to have it go down like that, I just added texture coordinate mapping and moved this, animated this using the hash frame divide by 50. Yeah, something like that. And then the rest is just adding a color ramp to give it some color. What else? I also added some, what is it called? Voronoi texture. Like that. And I think I used. Did I use a car ramp? Or was it a power math node? Let's see. Yeah, to get those wavy details, and I just borrowed the coordinates from this, and that should also mean that that will flow like that, and then you just combine the two, and you get those details in. You add a car ramp, and give it the colors you want. Give it the colors you want. And what else? I think that's it. Then you just place objects around, and then I parented all the objects to an empty. I think this empty. So whenever I move this around, is it this? This around, you can see this follows it. If I scale it around, you can see get basically the same. You don't want to scale it too much. The tap will start to be up. Just move it down like that. Yeah. And everything is still semi procedure, so I can come back in here. If I can remember the right nodes, I can tweak the setup there, maybe even change the scale of these. Yeah, again, the project files are available on. This was just a breakdown of things. Hopefully, I hope you like this format, because I don't. Sometimes the step-by-step tutorial can be too long and too repetitive. This just gives you an overall idea of how projects are approached, and I think I'll be doing this a lot. These guys really have a lot of shaders that I think I will convert to Blender materials. Look at this. This is what I'm going to try next. I think I'll try and attempt this. Look at this parallax. Yeah, they have some nice looking shaders. Yeah, you can also join the club. Join my what is it called? Email list, and so that you never miss out on any of the posts. Yeah, all links are going to be provided in the description. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are interested in this. Thank you.